Okay. Senator Osmena, you have the floor.
Yes, we also understand that the representatives of RCBC have a request to make. Mr. Tan, Lorenzo Tan, would you like to state that request? Or with Attorney Macel?
May I? Your Honor, in case you would wish to question us on procedures, we would be willing to discuss with you our procedures, but if possible in executive session, just because there are so many security features that we will be discussing, and it would be difficult to discuss without compromising the security of our bank. Of course, we still have our obligation for bank secrecy, even in executive session, but that would be our request, Your Honor.
All right. Well, that's that's the decision of the committee to make. But I have some preliminary questions. You brought up again the fact that the bank secrecy law protects the integrity of the individual accounts, correct?
Yes, there are several laws, Your Honor, that cover the deposits.
Yes. Name those laws.
The General Banking Act, you have the AMLA Act, there's the Bank Secrecy Law,
All right.
and the FCDU Law. There are 4 laws, Your Honor.
All right. Now, that's for an account owned by a person, right? Now, we understand that RCBC already has found out that those 4 accounts, or those 5 accounts, including Picaches, don't exist. Those persons don't exist. So therefore, there's nothing to protect. There's nobody to protect.
Your Honor, we have actually consulted with our external counsel, and the advice is the wording of the bank secrecy laws covers the deposit itself. So even if the account holder, for example, would be fictitious, first there has to be a court order determining that. But even if the bank secrecy still applies to the deposits, we are very cooperative. We would like to discuss the details, and we are actually sharing what information we have with the AMLC and the BSP. But we are unable to discuss details of specific deposits and accounts unless there's a
So
waiver,
now you're
Your
not
Honor.
protecting the person, you're protecting the deposit.
No, Your Honor, that's actually what the law says.
Will you read the specific
I'll get
provision
that.
in the law?
Section 2 of the Bank Secrecy Law provides that all deposits of whatever nature in banks in the Philippines are absolutely confidential in nature and may not be inquired or looked into by any person, government official, bureau, or office. There are some exceptions, Your Honor.
All right. And so that refers to the deposit itself. So
The deposit itself.
And so if there's, those deposits are the fruits of a robbery, a fraudulent transaction, you're still going to protect those deposits.
The law gives the banks an absolute obligation unless there are exceptions. Apart from the knowing, voluntary, and written consent of the depositor, banks may actually be required to divulge information in certain instances like impeachment, for example, bribery, dereliction of duty of public officials. There are specific cases, Your Honor.
All right. So in this particular case, if we go into executive session, you'll be able to share those things with
No,
the
Your
committee?
Honor. We still have our obligations.
So
in
what's the
executive
plus
session.
in going to executive session for the committee? Because we have to be transparent with
Yes,
our
Your
public,
Honor.
and all our hearings are open and
Yes.
open to the public.
Your Honor, we have done our best to be transparent to the extent that the law allows us. But especially in cases of dollar accounts, only the written consent of the depositor will allow us to divulge the information. We are mindful of these
Now,
laws
who
and
is
our
the
obligations.
depositor in this specific case? Would the depositor be who? You want the consent of the depositor. The depositor does not exist. So, whose consent do we get?
Your Honor, even if we would like to, we see the loophole in the law, and we hope that with this hearing, you will be able to address that loophole, because we really are unable to divulge despite the absurd situation.
Since these funds, we agree, were stolen from the Bank of Bangladesh, would you not consider Bangladesh Bank the depositor?
Your Honor, no. Under the law, that would not be the case, and I don't think that there is definitive proof.
So
that would
therefore,
allow
you're
us
saying,
to speak.
Attorney Macel, if I steal your money and I deposit it in an account, no one can look into that account to determine whether it was Macel's money or not. As
If
to
it's-
amount, the date it was deposited, wala.
If it's a peso account, Your Honor, and there's a court case with respect to that amount, we can discuss it in court.
Anong court case? Wala pang court case.
But in a
Investigation
Senate
lang.
hearing, sir, or an investigation, the law does not allow us to speak about these deposits.
We're getting into a debate, but I'd like to know what is the stand here, or what is the personality of the Bank of Bangladesh? Who owns that money?
As far as we are concerned, Your Honor, we do not know if the Bank of Bangladesh is the owner of the funds here. We do
You
not
don't?
have any legal
The whole world knows that the
order.
Bank of
Yes, Your
Bangladesh
Honor.
was hacked.
Yes, Your Honor.
But that this is not their money. Or you don't know that it's their money.
As far as the banks are concerned, and given the current laws in place, it is not for the bank to determine if the owner of an amount that was robbed has a right to the account or to the deposits. It's not for the bank, Your Honor.
Teka muna.
Even if I would want to, we are unable to, Your Honor.
Teka muna. Pag hindi natuloy, if the notice from New York had arrived earlier and the funds were not remitted out of Jupiter into somebody else's account, wouldn't you, the bank, have had the obligation to stop payment?
If there's a freeze order from a court, Your
No,
Honor, yes.
without a freeze order, don't you use your judgment and stop payment at any point?
In general, Your Honor, if it's a request for freeze, the best that the banks could do under the current laws would be to allow the parties, the person questioning the sending of the funds, and the account holder to speak. But the bank itself does not have the rights that it has under a freeze order. So we cannot return the funds unilaterally in that case. That is what the law allows us. We really just
Hindi,
operate in
anong
that
gagawin
framework.
ng bangko ninyo? Dumating yung hold order. You got a notice from the Bank of Bangladesh. You got a notice from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. You know, I'd like to inform the body that we hacked a U.S. bank. Not we, but the hackers hacked a U.S. bank. That is why it's now a federal crime. And that's why there's been a bigger hullabaloo because tinamaan ng New York. So, we would like to know from you, what would you have done if you had ample notice?
If we have ample notice, in any case, the only rights that are given to us would be to file an STR, a suspicious transactions report. And
Pero itutuloy ninyo yung remittance.
we can hold it for a period.
No. Tell me what you would do. Don't tell me what you can do.
Under the law, we have not been given any right to retain the funds, Your Honor.
I'm afraid many bankers would disagree with you, but I guess you're arguing from your point of view, no?
No, Your Honor. It would be...
Akong bangko, somebody stole money from Senator Bam's
Yes,
account,
yes.
say 1 million pesos. Then Bam tells me, that's my money, can you stop payment? Do not make it go any further. If I were the bank, I would be obligated to stop payment. I may not give the money back to Bam until he proves it's his.
Yes.
But definitely, I would stop payment.
I understand the logic, Your Honor, but unfortunately, the laws do not reflect the rights that you are explaining. It would be, for example, if a supplier sold a tractor to a buyer, and
If
payment
you have
order...
proof that there is legal transaction, of course you've got
We have
reason.
if there is
But
proof,
if there is no legal transaction, I stole Bam's money and I was just transferring the money to somebody else and I don't have any legal transaction with that somebody, there's no trade, there's no
Yes.
payment for services, you'd have to question me first. Teka muna.
yes, we would slow down
In the
on the
meantime, you would have to
processing.
stop payment,
Yes,
right?
we would slow
All
down
right.
on the processing and make the party speak.
But
But
you
may I
would
finish
stop
my
payment.
example? We would slow down. Your
No,
Honor,
don't tell me slow down because I don't know what
Effectively, it
slow
would
down
have the
meant.
same effect, Your
Either
Honor.
this goes through or this does not go through. Isang pindot lang yan.
effectively, it would have the same effect, Your Honor. But may I just go back to my example? If I
It
sold
will not
the
have the same
tractor-
effect, and you're not being very candid with the
I'm
committee.
very candid, Your Honor, on this.
So, what do you mean you can stop it? You will stop it,
For a
won't you?
temporary period only, Your Honor.
Well, I
just to
don't care
allow
if
the
it's
parties
temporary
to speak.
or permanent, but you will stop it until you can do some confirmation.
No, Your Honor.
You won't?
The laws do not allow us that right. And
I've
I'd like
talked
to
to
finish my
several
example.
bankers, top bankers, and they said, yes, they would exercise their discretion and stop it.
Your Honor, perhaps you would like to speak with others, but in this hearing, but that is not our reading of the law. And if I may just finish, if I sold the tractor to someone,
So
and there's a payment
RCBC
order-
is different. You're
No,
on the
Your Honor.
different.
All banks have the same obligations and rights under the same laws.
But I did ask those banks,
then,
and they would stop.
then I do
Teka
not
muna,
understand.
ninakaw yung pera. It's up to it's the discretion of the bank president or whoever
No, Your Honor.
to stop.
No.
So what is the use of the compliance?
That's why, Your Honor, it would be good
situation.
to amend the laws to give more teeth to the banks.
You're blaming
because
us now.
even the no, sir, I'm not. Even the regulators do not have that authority, Your Honor. I wish that it would be the case because it would make our jobs easier and it would not put us in a position where
So
there is
you're-
logic in what you're saying and
You
we
are
cannot
telling
follow.
the whole world that send your money to the Philippines because we cannot stop
No, Your
the
Honor, I am
transmittal.
not.
It will go straight to the casino or to the remittance company to the casino. Well, no, I'll not say. All right, now, I would like to ask also another question or go off on a related tact. Every bank has a threshold amount by which it is warned to examine the incoming deposit because it's very suspicious, right? In past hearings, wala kayong threshold amount.
Sir, if actually that would be the subject of our request for executive session, if that's the procedure, our operations head is here and he can discuss the details.
No, this is nothing secret. I mean, you either have a threshold amount
We have
or
a
you don't,
threshold
and you've
amount.
already.
Yes,
What is
Your
the
Honor.
threshold amount?
At that time, sir, it was 1 billion pesos.
1 billion pesos.
Yes, Your Honor.
Or roughly $20 million.
More or less.
More or less. So if it was less than that, you don't go up to higher ups.
Even with the threshold, Your Honor, there's no requirement to elevate it to senior management. It's still
Well,
at the settlements department.
That's
Your Honor.
very interesting. So $20 million, you don't elevate it to senior management. I want Mr. Yaitan to respond to my question. Yes? Name those laws.
The General Banking Act, you have the AMLA Act, there's the Bank Secrecy Law,
All right.
and the FCDU Law. There are 4 laws, Your Honor.
All right. Now, that's for an account owned by a person, right? Now, we understand that
Features that we will be discussing, and it would be difficult to discuss without compromising the security of our bank. Of course, we still have our obligation for bank secrecy, even in executive session, but that would be our request, Your Honor.
all right. Well, that's that's the decision of the committee to make.
Okay, Senator Osmena, you have the floor.
Yes. We also understand that the representatives of RCBC have a request to make. Mr. Tan, Lorenzo Tan, would you like to state that request? But I have some preliminary questions. You brought up again the fact that the bank secrecy law protects the integrity of the individual accounts, correct?
Yes, there are several laws, Your Honor, that cover the deposit.
Or with Attorney Macel?
May I, Your Honor, in case you would wish to question us on procedures, we would be willing to discuss with you our procedures, but if possible in executive session, just because there are so many security